Afternoon, guys. So the eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed that I think this talk was billed as 10 lessons learned in 10 years. I've never had maths as my strong suit, and I was sitting down last night and I did maths. I worked out I've only been in business 8 years, so I was delighted. I had an extra 2 years on my life, and you guys will be delighted as well because there are 2 fewer lessons you have to sit through. So, to give you a bit of an introduction for me. Yeah. I have a company called EGL Group, which is a personalized gifts business. It's not a consumer-facing brand. That is just our internal name because we have 2 brands underneath. One is called Engravers Guild of London. I started that in 2017 to be a personalized gifts business with a certain quality of gift and service and packaging and finish. And we started Lovelocks in 2021, which was a dedicated lockets proposition that we spun out of that. To give you a sense of where we're operating, I was very envious of the first speaker that stood up, and he's in the hundreds of millions marks and the billions. We, between those 2 brands, do about £4 million. So that's the kind of the scale that we're talking. And I thought it would be useful just to give you a bit of a sense of the journey that I've been on to get here before giving you my 8 lessons. So you would think that I would go back 8 years in life, but actually I'm going to start by going back, what's that say? 1887. Because I come from a very long line of Birmingham metal bashers. It was my great-great-grandfather, Thomas Bishton, that started a company called Bishton Silversmiths. And since then, every generation of my family has been involved in the business. There's my great-granddad, my granddad, and to the right, that's my father. And the last iteration of the business was my father selling solid gold watches. That was in the 1990s and early 2000s. But unfortunately, as some of you will remember, in 2009, there was a financial crisis. The price of gold went up, up, up. Consumer spending went down, down, down. And between the 2, it became pretty obvious that the decision would have to be made to wind down the family company. So I picked up the mantle in 2017, and that's me with my brother. Because I remember when I went into the factory that my dad was closing, I saw all this machinery that was around, and I didn't know what any of it did. I didn't know what a tumbler was meant to do. I didn't know how to use a soldering iron, but I did know one thing, and I did know what the intention of an engraving machine was. So while everything else went out to scrap, I said to my dad, why don't you just take those and put those in the attic? And it was another 7 or 8 years before finally I ventured back up into the attic and dusted them off and brought them down. In fact, it was actually on the day of my 30th birthday that I went into work because I had to not join the family business as there wasn't one, but I went down to London and got a job in a corporate position. And I went in on my 30th birthday, and my line manager said to me, have you got any big plans for the next decade of your life, Elliot? And I said, yes, I do. Here's my notice, I'm quitting my job. So I dusted down those engraving machines, and I started in my little flat, on my little table, in my little corner of London. And what you see before me there is the entirety of my business at that time in 2017. But I grew a little bit, and like all budding and aspiring entrepreneurs, I did what had to be done. I moved in with my parents. And that's the end room of my house where my mum and dad live. And I know you're all thinking one thought, what on earth is that wallpaper? And I don't know either, but my mum did like it. So I had to live with that for a couple of years until we outgrew the end room, and that was the workshop. We've taken on another member of staff. That's my grandma in the foreground. She was 99 last week and still going strong. But we outgrew that space a little bit more, so we had to professionalize, and we decked it out so that we could have a team of about 6 or 7 people. And then last year we moved again into our own custom-made workshop in the Staffordshire countryside, which has been a real pleasure and joy. So that's how I got to kind of where we are. And I'm going to try and segment my lessons into 3 different parts. I need to read what these are. The first 3 lessons are going to be business truths. And then the next batch of lessons are going to be personal lessons. And I'm going to give you a couple of final personal reflections at the end. So the first lesson, it might be obvious to us all now, but it is. E-commerce is hard. My God, it is hard. Today, harder than ever. Because I'd actually say that e-com wasn't this hard when I started in 2017. The phrase that comes to mind was all boats were being lifted by a rising tide. And there was a sense that if you build it, they will come. And indeed, they did come. I was lucky that that's when I started my business. And then we went through COVID, and boy, did they come, that was great. But then since COVID, the tide has definitely been retreating. And it's not just me that's experiencing it, I don't think. If you look at some of the biggest e-com success stories in this country, or those that are purported to be success stories, they're all struggling too. If you look at those companies that have been knocking around the FTSE 250 in the last 10 years, those e-com companies specifically, then you've got people like ASOS. Last year they lost £380 million. Boohoo Group, Debenhams now, last year they lost £264 million. The Hut Group, £202 million. In fact, it is bloody hard to find an e-com example that is actually making money right now. To come close to home and talk about an example which is relevant for my business in personalised gifts, I can look to Not on the High Street. They turned over £25 million last year and lost £44 million. Now, it's very, very difficult to make money when everyone else around you is losing money, because the consumer has completely false expectations about what they can expect from a profitable product. So the moral of this story is you really have to be at the top of your game to be winning in e-com right now. And hopefully the next few lessons, they were helpful for me, and maybe there is some level of truth in them for you as well. So the second lesson is we're all marketeers. Now, I remember, sorry, I just need to check something. So I was going to say, I think I've probably fallen foul of this lesson already, because I introduced myself as somebody with a personalized gifts business. But I should have introduced myself as somebody with a marketing business that just happens to sell personalized gifts. Now, this is a pretty easy mistake to make. I don't know of actually that many people that go into e-com because they love e-com. Most of the people I know who go into e-com are people that they actually love the product, whether it be food, whether it be flowers, whether it be football, whether it be bicycles. It's because people have a particular affinity with a particular product that they find themselves in e-com. But actually, while the product may define the category, it's the marketing which will define the growth. And that's very easy to forget. Now, you might say, well, that's okay, whatever you say, I still am a product person, I paid somebody to do the marketing and they sort it out, I trust them, and that's great. Now, I wouldn't really call myself much of a conspiracy theorist, but I would say that I perhaps have one conspiracy theory about e-com, which is that while sales channels are very good at attributing sales, they're not always so good at generating sales. And if I believed all the reports that have been put in front of me for the last 10 years or 8 years, then we would should either be doing 3 times more sales than we're doing right now when you put them all together. Or, what's probably more likely, we would be bust. So if you are one of those people that is in e-com and thinks, well, marketing is done by somebody else, my business is a product business, then you really do still have to take responsibility for interrogating those numbers. I can give you an example of what my brother and I did recently, and that was on affiliate marketing. It's a channel that can work incredibly successful for some people, but for us, my brother and I had a burning sense that actually this wasn't delivering the revenue that it claims to be. It said we were doing £300,000 a year extra revenue because of affiliate marketing, and we were a bit perplexed. So we paid somebody £1,000 actually to really dive into our Google Analytics and try and take the origin of every point of every item that has been sold through affiliate marketing. And it actually came back as a surprise. It said that actually 25% of the affiliate marketing activity was generating as a sale. That was 25% higher than we probably thought it was. Since then, we have actually cut affiliate marketing entirely, and we haven't seen our sales dip in the slightest bit at all, so we're pleased to be making that saving. This won't be the case for everybody. For some people, it will be great, but you do have to interrogate the numbers. Very often, sadly, it's the case that is not the best product that wins in e-com. So do remember, at the end of the day, we're all marketeers. So, my third lesson, discounting is the devil. Now, ever since I started my business, everybody comes to me, all the agencies, all the experts, and they're all saying one thing: discount. Your CRO agency is telling me, put a discount on your product page. My AdWords agency is saying, you've got to do incredible Black Friday discounts. My email agency is telling me, give everybody 10% off everything on your website just for landing on your homepage. But I would say that there is a devil in the discounting. And if you actually interrogate some of the numbers, no, that's going forward, it can be quite alarming. So if you have a product that's got a 50% margin, so that's a double up, and you put a 10% discount on it, how much more do you think you have to sell to attain the same gross profit? You might think, I'll just induce an increase in sales of 5%, that'll be enough. Nowhere near. Not even 10% would be enough. Not even a 15% increase in sales would be enough to derive the same gross profit. Not even a 20% increase. But it would have to be a 25% increase in sales so that you walk away with the same gross profit as what you were doing before. And if you really want to push the boat out and do a 20% discount on what you're selling, that requires a 67% increase in your sales just to generate the same gross profit. And I learned this the hard way. So my brother and I sat down and thought, let's really put a rocket up this business. And we worked out what would be a great ROAS for us to have. It would give us a good profit, we'd hopefully make good sales, and we'd all be happy. And so we set it, and it worked. My God, it worked. We did an extra £200,000 of sales in that quarter, which for us, in our size of business, was a lot more business. Everybody was happy. You walked through the workshop, it was hive of activity. Our AdWords agency was wanting to put us as a case study for how successful it had been. And we went away from that quarter pretty pleased with ourselves. Until our accountants came back with our quarterly report. And they said, yeah, well done, guys. You increased sales by £200,000. That's good. You decreased profits by £30,000. And that was an awful lot of work for us to be doing for less return than we got before. So please don't make the same mistake that we did. And just beware that discounting is the devil. So success does not reward hard work. Now I can let you into sort of a secret of what I thought when I started working, which is that I thought if I could do 2 days of work every day, that would be the route to success. I started my day at 8 a.m, I finished my first day at 5 p.m, and I began my second day at 6 p.m. and worked till 1 a.m. And I did that day in, day out, for quite an extended period of time. But there came a point in which I sat back and was realizing that the business wasn't doing as well as I'd like, and I thought, why am I a billionaire? I literally cannot work any harder than I am right now. And the answer is because success does not reward hard work. Success rewards leverage. Leverage being doing the right thing in the right way, and most crucially, with the right multipliers. Now, I'm not too hard on myself because I understand why I fell into that pattern of work. Because all through my life, I've been drummed into that success does reward hard work. I'd say it's almost one of the biggest societal myths that are out there. And indeed, for a lot of people, it serves them very well. It serves capital owners very well to be telling everybody that the route to their success will be hard work. Because if you're an owner of capital, you want your resources to be working as hard as they possibly can for you. Indeed, I went through school. I worked pretty hard, got pretty good grades, went to a pretty good uni, got a decent job, got a decent salary. It all seems to be playing out true. But then, when I was under my own skin, I missed the lesson that success does not reward hard work. You have to focus on the multipliers. Now, the most obvious example of a multiplier is employing somebody. Now, that's not always possible for a small business. Indeed, it wasn't possible for me. So I had to adopt a new mantra. And my mantra was systematize the shit out of everything. Every single thing I did, I made sure that it could be replicated by somebody else. Now, I think one of the most criminal phrases that I've used in my career, and that I've heard lots of other people use in their careers as well, especially if you're a business owner, is, oh, don't worry, you leave that, I'll do it, it'll be much quicker. That is the worst thing you can ever say. And if ever you find yourself saying that in your business to somebody else, stop yourself and realize that you're making a really big mistake. So that's my 4th lesson. Going on to my 5th lesson. Your business is not a family. Again, this was a really difficult lesson for me to learn because literally my business was a family. But I think, and I hear a lot of people talking about their businesses as an extension of their family. It's a very easy trap to fall into, especially when you're bootstrapping a business. But I'd say you're doing an incredible disservice to everybody if you're calling your family a business. Because if you're a family, you are bound together by inseparable bonds, and you are there for merit of your blood. Whereas if you're a team, you're there by the merit of what you contribute. And you want everybody around you to be contributing as much as you possibly can. And also, I think it's too much of an excuse for the founder to think that, oh, we're all here and we're a family, because it overlooks the real reason why everybody is there and what it is that keeps you together. There is a void because you don't have blood connecting you. What should be connecting you is a vision, is a mission, is a shared and common purpose. And you should be rewarding people that contribute towards the team. And then you should be rewarding your top performers, which is the complete antithesis of what happens in a family. So I'd say, don't make the mistake of thinking that your business is a family, because at the end of the day, no matter how close you think everybody is to you and how loyal they are to what you're trying to create, as soon as they get a better offer for their life circumstances, they're out the door. And so they should be, because at the end of the day, you have to put yourself and your own real family first. So, a week is a long time. Okay, what do I mean by this? And bear with me a little bit. Because the point that I'm trying to make is about focus and how to keep your focus on track. Now, you might think, well, I get my annual report every year from the accountants. That's a good reflection of my focus in the business. Or you might think that I get a quarterly report or even a monthly report. That's a good reflection of your focus. But I'd actually say that that period of time is too expansive and can hold all manner of things about how focused you really are in your business. Now, I think a day is too short, but a week is the sweet spot. Or at least this is what I've come to learn. Because I won't tell you the amount of times that I've gone into work on a Monday with 3 things at the top of my to-do list, and I left work on a Friday with the same 3 things to do at the top of my to-do list. And I don't even want to go on and say whether that happened in the week after and the week after that. And I don't want to say how long I've had 3 things to do at the top of my to-do list, and they've been there for a very long periods of time. And so I obviously didn't have enough focus. And when I've done my research into how other people have achieved so much in their lives, it always comes down to one thing, and that is focus. I watched a video of Johnny Ives the other day, and he was asked what it was that made Steve Jobs so incredibly successful. And Johnny Ives said, "I am shocked by how simplistic this is, but I also understand how difficult it is." And Steve was the most focused person I've ever met in my life. And he would say the word no. He'd say the word no a lot. Not no to things that he doesn't want to do. Not even no to things that he kind of wants to do. But Steve would say no to things and to ideas which he thought with every bone in his body was a phenomenal idea. But he said no because he was doing something else more important. Now, when I think back to my to-do list of 3 things to do at the beginning of the week and 3 things to do at the end of the week, I think I give myself an excuse. I think, well, a week's not a very long time. I had meetings on the Tuesday, I had an event on the Wednesday, something came up on the Thursday that was unexpected. So it's okay, it's no big deal. But if I think that every single week, and if I transform that to actually, there is no way I am going home at the end of this week without having done those 3 things. And that compounds week in, week out over years, then my business will be exponentially bigger, better, and stronger in times to come. Just to make the points a little bit more with Elon Musk, I've heard that Elon Musk is Steve Jobs times 3. And Elon Musk will not leave his office until he has done everything, whether it's 8 hours or 18 hours that he's got to be there in a day. And while Elon Musk can operate at the period of a day, I'm going to acknowledge that I'm not of quite his caliber and say that I think a week is probably about right. So, moving on. 7, try to consciously grow. Now, the reason I bring this point up is because a few years ago I was in a difficult situation at work, and I dealt with it to the best of my abilities, and I think it was okay. Now, a year or so later, I was put in a pretty similar position. And again, I dealt with it to the best of my abilities, and it was okay. And I came out, and I realized that I didn't deal with it really that much better than I dealt with it the first time around. I didn't feel as though I had actually grown enough as a person and as a business leader, as much as I would have liked to think I would have in that period of a year or 2 years. And I can understand why that happened. If you're the business owner or the business leader, there's nobody to call you into an annual appraisal every year. There's nobody to call you up to tell you that they didn't like what you did, or they did like what you did. So what is that feedback mechanism that I get to make sure that I am improving every year? And I don't have a silver bullet, and I don't have a real answer for this, other than to try and bring a bit of intention and consciousness to the way that you're operating. I would say that if you are a business owner, you are in an incredibly privileged and fortunate position, because most people have to play to somebody else's tune all through their lives, whereas you can really direct yourself. But just try and make sure that you're directing yourself in a way that you grow to make you the biggest and the best person that you can possibly be. So, I think we're coming on to my final lesson. So, being my final lesson, somebody said you want something that's upbeat, that's lifting, that leaves everybody on a high. So I've decided my final lesson will be, your business will go bust. Now, I'm not the only one to think this, and I share pretty good company. I'm not sure whether you ever saw the video with Jeff Bezos, where he said that he believes that Amazon will go bankrupt. He said if you look at the lifespan of most big businesses, it's not 100 plus years that you look at, it's 30 plus years. And Amazon is about 30 plus years old now. So whether they're going to go bust in the immediate future, I don't know. But in my experience of life and business, I've seen that all businesses ultimately either do get sold or do get passed on, or most usually they do go bust. I'd say, and the figures bear that out, very few businesses survive their first 10 years. And I would go one further to say that the business that is 10 years old will have changed so much that it is so fundamentally different from the business that it was 10 years ago that it almost could not be considered the same business. So the moral from this story is twofold. One, you have to continually be iterating, improving, and innovating if you want to be around in the next 10 years. I'm shocked by the amount of business owners that I speak to who think of their business as like a point of stasis. This is what we do. And yet they're convinced that it will be around forever. They're convinced that it will support their retirement. They're convinced that they'll be able to hand it over to the next generation. So one, keep innovating, keep iterating. That's one takeaway. The second takeaway of it is that businesses do go bust. We all die, all businesses will die, and the point of what we're trying to do is delay the inevitable, not to just deny it. And if it does happen though, don't be too worried about it. I've seen people whose businesses go bust and they take it very personally. But there are circumstances that are just beyond your control. Do we really know what AI is going to do? Do we really know if Google's going to be around in 4 years' time? No, we don't. The big Goliaths can fall as much as the small minnows. And we shouldn't take it to heart if we end up being one side of the fence or the other. And also, we shouldn't be too proud and pompous if it does go well and we do have a bit of money in the bank at the end of the day. So there's some of my lessons. I do have a bonus lesson for you, which is that really you only learn by doing. So do go out, do learn, do understand, and do try and improve. And that's my 8 lessons. Thank you very much.
So, yeah. Can I have a question first, yeah?
Yeah.
Will, and a little bit me starting a business and selling this luggage stuff, right? Question, we were brainstorming, thinking we need to put this engraving on those things. And probably when I went to your warehouse, there's a bunch of the things that you engrave on. Do you believe the idea of engraving on the suitcases like that will work?
I probably wouldn't. If you do have an error, then it's a big cost to scrap, so I'd probably try and put a tag on it and engrave the tag instead.
Thank you very much, I'm done. Any other questions?
Any questions? Or quick?
Okay, so it's like, we are gonna die.
What are some of the more common issues that you have with personalization? Obviously, it's like a different world, and we've spoken to clients in the past about them potentially wanting to do things like that in some issues.
Yeah, so I'd say the big challenge about personalization is that usually things are personalized to give away as a gift. And it's very, very difficult. I know that lots of people say it's possible, you should do it, but I've burned through a lot of agencies who told me that and then all conceded it wasn't possible. It's very, very difficult to build a community around gifting because the person who's buying the gift doesn't even want it. They have no affinity, no accord whatsoever. We sell lots of pocket watches to middle-aged ladies, and no matter how much we can try and sell them another pocket watch, there's absolutely no way that they're going to give it any interest whatsoever. So a big challenge for gifting is trying to create a community around it. That's why we are wedded to Google Ads, and our resilience therefore is very low. So if Google Ads goes, so will we in no time at all.
And then how do you then take that journey that obviously the gift has been given to someone else? What are you doing to kind of potentially have that client become a future client, whether that's them gifting to other people or buying more things for themselves?
Yeah, we try. So we try and build, we do it through email marketing. That would be our biggest way. And we just try and create a bit of a story around it. I do feature a little bit in that story. We try and make it personal from a family business that really cares. And we do really care. I have a team of people that put so much work and effort into delivering the best gift experience as possible. So I think that we just have to try and rely on leaving a bit of an impression, which I know is a tall order because ultimately people forget what they receive, as soon as it's out of sight. We do targeted activity around gifting periods like Christmas. So we will send mass mailing letters and things like that. Otherwise, there is no secret. We do rely on Google Ads a hell of a lot. Anything else? All right. Okay. Yeah.
Ray Dalio in his book Principle describes business as a family. But you're saying instead it shouldn't work that direction.
Yeah. How do I reconcile the two? Well, I'd maybe say I don't. I looked at lots of business advice over the years, and almost every time I can find somebody who says one thing, they're esteemed and recognized, and everybody treats it as though they're the Messiah, and they say one thing. And then you look at somebody else who is equally revered, and they say the exact opposite. So I think what you've got to do is just try and find your own truth in your own reality that works for you. And it was a learning for me that you shouldn't treat your business like an extension of your family. It's better to try and create a high-performance team than it is some unwanted uncles.
I'm gonna give you quick advices. Remember the problem with Kinsta? Post it.
Yes.
Please speak with Navid. Navid, raise your hand. I show him.
I think he's an error right now.
So I show for Garafini to speak with them. I show them the website, and they said the limitation of the Kinsta that we know for you can be eliminated with them. I know you're in the process of doing maybe Shopify, but in the meantime, it's a season now for you. What I would expect now in the Black Friday. You guys expecting the spike?
Well, we would like to one. We want one to come. Yeah.
Yeah. So speak with them 100% and super payments. Even if you're not Shopify, remember 1.4% versus 0.6%. That will unlock a little bit of. So talk to them as well. It's the room over here, and they will be waiting for you. Okay.
Great.
Good.
Great.